And just allow yourself to fully arrive here. Not just the body, but the awareness, the attention, the intention. Allow it all to be here. And just allow the awareness to anchor into your breath. Don't try to change the breath, but just draw the awareness into the breath. If the mind wanders, just gently keep drawing it back. Just gently drawing it back to the breath. The breath is just that anchor to take you deeply inward. Typically our minds, our awareness, is all hooked into the constantly changing world around us. But for these moments, just draw the awareness in. And as you exhale, just allow yourself to sink deeper and deeper into the self. You can add a very gentle and simple mantra to it if you like. And the mantra is so hum. And it means I am that. I am one with all of creation. I am one with the Creator. I am one with all that is. Just gently on the inhalations, you allow yourself to chant gently, so just silently to yourself. And on the exhalations, you chant hum. Slowly and silently to yourself. Just reminding yourself over and over who you are. If you still get distracted, don't worry. Just keep drawing that awareness back to the breath, back to the mantra. If thoughts arise, just allow them to blow across your consciousness. Like wispy clouds blow across a blue sky on a windy day. But keep the awareness on the blueness, the blue sky between the clouds. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together in Namaste at chest level. And just gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands gently into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome. Welcome to Satsang. Starting, as always, with a question from our online audience. Then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. What is a spiritual view of tattoos or body piercings? Is it considered wrong to modify our body in these ways? This is asked by Sean Raja Karuna. so different traditions have different norms. There's some traditions that are full of lots of different types of piercings and, if not tattoos, body paint. A lot of the indigenous traditions. There's other traditions, in India you'll see a lot of people will have an Om tattooed into their hand, which gets done when they're very, very, very young and sort of stays with them throughout life. Here in India, they pierce ears of not only girls but boys. It's actually said to be an acupressure point for something. It's not an aesthetic thing, but it's more of a health thing. I think the main piece is that pretty much all of our deep spiritual traditions emphasize that the highest goal in life is not about decorating the body. And whether it's decorating it with paint or tattoos or piercings or titles and degrees or clothes or shoes or money or whatever we're using to decorate ourselves, that isn't exactly why we're here. That we're actually here for something much deeper. And that the body is a container. It's form, where the content is. And so if we want to do different things to decorate the body, either temporary things like paint and clothes and new shoes, or permanent things like tattoos and piercings, whatever it may be, most spiritual traditions I know don't have anything specifically either against it, as in you can't or you must. But what's important is to really ask yourself why. What purpose is it serving? If there is a spiritual purpose, in Indian tradition, there's a lineage of renunciants, of monastics called the Naga sadhus. And they're mostly naked, and they cover themselves in ash. Now, ash is not a permanent tattoo. They have to keep putting it on every day. But the ash serves a very specific purpose, which is to remind them, you've come from ash, you're going back to ash. This is the truth of what the body is. It's just ash. It's just ash. And so if whatever you're doing is something that reminds you, do it. That's why we put on tilak. Again, not permanent. We've got to do it every day. But we do it to remind ourselves of this third eye, rather than just these two eyes. This eye that enables us to see the divine. We were talking about that last night or the night before. So if you're doing something that's reminding you, inspiring you, in some deep spiritual way, honoring you, honoring the divine, why not? Sure. I mean, the body is a temple. The body is a gift. We need to take care of it. We need to honor it. But we need to not be confused that we are it. So as you take care of it, as you keep it clean, as you keep it healthy, as you adorn it in different ways, if you want to adorn it in some ways that are more permanent than temporary, I'm not aware of any spiritual injunctions against that. But the dilemma becomes whether it's tattoos and piercings or whether it's plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, is it can pull you into forgetting that the body is just form, that it's not content. whether it's tattoos after tattoos or piercings after piercings or cosmetic surgery after cosmetic surgery, it shifts the focus to what looks good. What looks good? What looks good? What will be more beautiful? What will be more beautiful? And the goal of spiritual practice is to shift our focus onto the divine, onto spirit, onto soul, onto that which is eternal. So, yeah, if you want to adorn the package, sure. Beautify it, sure. Just don't lose sight that at the end of the day, piercings or no piercings, tattoos or no tattoos, it's all ash. It's all ash. Whatever you may have done to it, whatever you've dressed it in, it's all ash. It's where it's going. So spend some of that time also not beautifying the inside, but discovering the beauty of the inside, because it's already there. Yeah, good. Interesting question to start with. Other questions? Any question that anyone here has? We have these 2 microphones, so yeah, of course. Just pick a microphone. Either way. You've got to turn it on. Yeah, there you go.
It's something contentious, but what's the spiritual view of sex, and specifically having multiple partners?
Okay. Now, when you say spiritual, I have to begin by mentioning and just reminding you, I am not sitting here as any kind of an expert in global, universal, every single possible stream of spirituality of all of the different world traditions that have ever existed. What I am steeped in is the spirituality of Sanatan Dharma, of the Vedic tradition, of the Indian spirituality, of the Dharmic traditions. So it's important to understand that. I can't tell you what all of the different spiritual traditions in the world have ever said about this. But what the Hindu tradition or the Dharmic tradition says is several things. Let's begin with sex in general, and then we'll move to the multiple partners aspect. So, jumping off of the last question, and what I've already said about that, the purpose of human life is to remember and realize that you are not the body. When we say God realization or self-realization, the words are synonymous. The self is God. And so that realization is a realization that although I have a body, I am not the body. The body has a size, it has a shape, it has a color, it has a race, it has a religion, it has a gender, it has a career, it has a bank account, it has skills and abilities and histories and personalities and relationships. But I'm none of those things. Those are all part of the karmic package that this soul has taken in this particular incarnation. But the Bhagavad Gita makes it really clear. You were never born, you will never die. Really unambiguous. You are not the body, you are not the one who was born, you are not the one who will die. You are that which fire cannot burn, which water cannot wet, which wind cannot dry, which knives cannot cut. learn that, know that all of our life's purpose is to actually know that. Therefore, anything and everything, sex included but not limited to sex, that pulls our attention powerfully, uniquely, and in a very contracted way onto momentary pleasure, physical sensation, and the physical body, is that which we are taught to learn to transcend. And so it's not that sex is bad any more than enjoying a good pizza is bad. But as you go deeper on a spiritual path, the teachings are, have pizza if you want to have pizza, no problem. If you're in a dharmic relationship, you're not a monastic, okay, have sex, especially if you're propagating. But if you said to any spiritual master, all I do all day long is eat pizza, and all I think about all day long is eating pizza. When I'm not eating pizza, I'm planning like when I'm going to be able to eat pizza. And everything that I see, I just think about it being like an ingredient on my next pizza. Well, the master would say, we have a problem here. Not why you're here. Not that the pizza is the problem. But how the pizza has hijacked your mind and your attention and your life is the problem. And they might say, you know what? It might be really good for you to take a little break from pizza for a while. A little bit of abstinence could do you some good. And in the same way, assuming that the relationship is dharmic, that it's a spiritual relationship, that it's not about the kind of one night stand, friends with benefits, just, few minutes of pleasure and then we're going to forget about it, no strings attached type of thing. Assuming it's not that, and you're in a committed relationship, it's a part of that relationship. It's how we propagate the species. Certainly nothing wrong with it. Nobody's anti-sex. Again, unless you are a monastic. But if you went to a spiritual master and you said, I have sex all day long, we have it, in every room of the house, on every surface, and when I'm not having sex, I'm thinking about having sex, they'd say, that's a problem. Again, not because the sex is the problem, but because you've gone astray. That's not why you're here. You're here to go beyond the momentary pleasures of the senses, whether it's your taste buds or whether it's other senses. You're here to go beyond those. You're here to recognize that truth, that consciousness, that Sat Chit Anand. Truth, consciousness, bliss, that is all the time. Because otherwise, you have pizza, you're happy. You don't have pizza, you're not happy. You have sex, you're happy. You don't have it, you're not happy. And suddenly, instead of you, every once in a while, using pizza or sex to enjoy, now you've become the slave and they've become the master. If you don't have it, you're not able to be happy. You're not able to relax. You're not able to be in peace. You're not able to feel satisfied. Now you've become a slave to the body. And so make sure that you're not a slave to the body. Make sure, this is why we fast. It's why we stay up all night certain nights of the year. It's why even married couples, when they come on spiritual pilgrimage, they'll abstain from sex. Not because food is bad or sleep is bad or sex is bad, but because it's really good every once in a while to remind you that you are not the cause of the body. You're fasting. The body's like, feed me, I'm hungry. But you don't, because you've made a conscious decision that you're going to fast this day. And what you learn from that is stomach's growling. Mind is saying, eat, eat. I'm not giving into it. And I'm still here. I haven't exploded. I haven't imploded. The sky hasn't fallen. The earth hasn't opened up and swallowed me whole. Look at that. There actually is a part of me, and it's not the, digging your nails into you, gritting your teeth willpower. It's not about that at all. It's a touching that within you that isn't the senses. And even though the senses are screaming and crying and doing their thing, you're able to touch a stillness, an expansiveness, a bliss that arises not from a, piece of hot pizza or from a great orgasm, but that actually arises from that sat chit, that truth and consciousness, which means that it's a bliss that lasts. With regard to the second part of your question, the multiple partner aspect, it would really depend on what the higher purpose of that was. If the purpose of that is simply, essentially, I'm bored by monogamy, the whole sort of humans were never meant to be monogamous anyway situation, or more excitement, more passion, whatever it may be, I'd say it's a distraction. I don't think about it in terms of sin or, anything like that. But it's a distraction. Why? Why? What are you gaining from it that you're not actually losing? Think about how much time and energy it takes to just manage one person in a relationship. Right? Anybody who's ever been in a relationship knows it's kind of a full-time job. I can't even begin to imagine the amount of time and energy and brain capacity that would have to go into managing 3, 4, 5 simultaneous relationships. And if you're not in deep relationship, well, then all you're doing is treating your body like an object and their bodies like objects. And we're not objects. We're spirit. In human form, which we've been given to work out our karmic journey. Not to distract ourselves as much as we can. We speak about different ways of numbing, different addictions, different defense mechanisms, and different ways of kind of running from the present moment. And alcohol and drugs and food and scrolling social media are certainly the more common ones. But sex is absolutely one. Pornography is a huge one. And sex even with live partners, if it's something that's occupying a lot of your life, which if you've got multiple partners, I imagine might be. I'd want to ask myself, I've only got 24 hours in a day. I've got to sleep, I've got to bathe, I've got to eat. I want to meditate. Presumably I have to do something to put bread on the table. Now here's what I've got left. How to use those hours such that who I am is blossoming and expanding and growing and deepening, rather than just setting yourself up for this constant desire, gratification, desire, gratification, desire, gratification, need to have more, whatever it may be. It's not what you're put on earth for. So again, it's not, I wouldn't say it's bad or sinful or, that's not the spiritual background I come from. But I'd say it might be a really good time for some self-inquiry. Why am I doing this? What am I running from? What am I distracting myself from? What am I gaining from this on any kind of a deep, long-term level? Yeah.
Just to clarify, I've never done that.
Purely theoretical question, yes. Good, done. Well, it's actually great. It's always better to ask questions before you do it. Right? I mean, sometimes you'll get questions from people saying, well, do you think this would be a good idea or that would be a good idea? And you give the answer and they're like, oh, well, I actually already did this. You think, well, good that you asked, but the most auspicious time to have asked might have been before you actually made the decision. So kudos for having the wherewithal to ask first. Other questions? Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much. I want to know, when you are a very sensitive person and you are scared of it, so instantly
Scared of it.
scared of feeling, and you instantly go to your mind and you try to think your feelings instead of
feel them.
your feelings. How you can overcome that fear?
Good. Being sensitive is beautiful. It's really beautiful. We all should be sensitive. There's nothing to be afraid of. The fear is, I will hurt. Nobody's afraid of feeling good. Nobody's afraid of being sensitive and open to really good feelings. It's a fear of suffering. And this is where wisdom comes in. This is where Gyan comes in. In yoga, in the yoga philosophy, they speak about the 5 main causes of suffering, the 5 kleshas. Avidya, which is lack of knowledge, ignorance, lack of wisdom, means lack of knowing who we are. It's not lack of knowing mathematics, it's lack of knowing who we are, the truth of who we are. Asmita, ego, over-identification with this. Rag and dvesh, which is the desires and aversions. I want this, I don't want that. So this is what's going on in you. I don't want to feel that. And you push it away. And the last is abhinivesh, which is fear of death. And this fear of your emotions actually is all 5 of these. And I won't go into it in too much depth because it a long talk, but just quickly, the ignorance, the lack of wisdom, is this idea that somehow you are your emotions. And this is what a lot of us feel. I am angry. People going, I am angry. I am depressed. I am sad. Well, no, you're not. It's not who you are. Right now, in your brain, there's a chemical pattern of behavior that we call anger, or we call it sadness, or we call it anxiety, depression. But it's not who you are. And so emotions, it's important to realize emotions are just that. They are biochemical patterns in our brains, into our bloodstreams. That's all it is. And so when you open yourself to it and allow it, see it. See it really for what it is. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to drown you. Worst thing that happens, you open yourself up to sadness and you feel sad. Okay? Eventually you'll stop feeling sad. But you've got to let yourself have that feeling so that you know not to fear it. And the asmita, the ego, that aspect is that you over-identify with it. Oh my God, I'm the sensitive one feeling so sad. Get over it. Don't worry. So you're sad in this moment. The sensitivity of you will make you happy in the next moment. Be around people who are happy. You'll feel that happiness. Open yourself up to joy, to love. Crash weddings. Especially Indian weddings. First of all, you can never actually crash an Indian wedding. There are always more guests. Yeah, everybody, come. Surround yourself with that which you can open yourself up to that isn't going to cause pain. But then also you've got to let go of this rag and dvesh. So it's not, I desire the happiness, I push away the sadness. It's a full picture. It's full picture. And that last aspect of the abhinivesh, the fear of death, it's so interesting because it's not just fear of physical death, it's fear of ego death. And a lot of us fear if I open myself up too much, that which I feel will suffocate me, it will drown me, it will be too much. So I have to stuff it, suppress it, repress it. It's not going to kill you, I promise. It's not going to drown you. Let it be there. Okay, so you cry. Tears are beautiful. Yeah. Another tool, depending on where you are and where you're going to be, is my favorite wetsuit technique, which is a technique in which in the morning or before you go out into the world, if you are sensitive, or even if you don't necessarily think you are, but you're just human, because we're all sensitive on some levels, and you're going to be somewhere where there's a lot of negative energy, or a lot of energy that you really just don't want to take in. And you picture yourself zipping up a wetsuit. And I love the wetsuit analogy because the way that a wetsuit works is it allows in a very, very, very thin layer of water. It doesn't keep you dry. It's not a dry suit. Lets in a little bit of water. Your body heat then warms that water. And you then dive into the ocean. But you, even though the ocean is cold, you are swimming in your own heated, warm environment. Your body is having an experience of warm water, even though outside is cold water. And the wetsuit metaphor is as you zip it up, you allow yourself to really consciously fill it with your energy, with peace, with love, with positivity, with truth. And then you go out into wherever you've got to go. And so it's not about how can I warm the ocean. Yeah, I mean, if you've got that kind of heat, by all means, why not? But first and foremost, it's about protecting you. And so you take care of your energetic field, and then, yeah, once you've got that powerful energy, sure, share it with all. But at least in the beginning, just zip up that wetsuit and keep yourself in a protected, beautiful environment. Yeah, beautiful. Other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And as we know about Bhagavad Gita, there is one slok, Samatvam Yog Uchyate. So in that slok, sometimes we face any situation, on that time we can't control ourselves. So on that time, how we can control ourselves? And we know this line, we know the meaning of this line. But on that time, we are not able to control in this situation that we balance our mind. So how can we balance our mind in any situation everywhere, and which is, it doesn't matter which is most critical or not?
Great. So we'll take this as the last question. The dilemma for most of us is we try to start balancing our mind in times of crisis. We try to start finding a spiritual anchor in crisis. And yeah, it's very difficult. Very difficult to have a balanced mind when things are in chaos around you. The only way you can have it is if you've walked into that situation with it. If your mind is situationally dependent, as in it's only peaceful when you're surrounded by peaceful people, then you're just going to be a product of whatever environment you're in. But if your mind is always balanced, that state of equanimity that Bhagavan Krishna speaks about, that he teaches us how to have. And the way to do it is to recognize the fullness of yourself. We lose our mind when we feel like we need the outside world to be a different way in order for us to feel full and happy and whole and content and complete. But if I'm already aware of that, then whatever's going on around me doesn't impact me. Doesn't impact me so much. Because I don't need it to be different. If I'm dependent on people treating me a certain way, speaking to me a certain way, living a certain way, acting a certain way, doing things a certain way, then when they do, I'll be happy. When they don't, I won't. We need to work on anchoring and hooking our mental state, our emotional state, in our own selves, not in that which is happening in the world around us. And that's what meditation teaches us. It's what mindfulness teaches us. It's what awareness teaches us. It's what all of these practices teach us. That is happening. But I'm here. It's why, when you meditate, there's certainly nothing wrong with scratching your nose or, changing your body or doing things while you're meditating if there's an ant on you or whatever. But it's also really, really helpful, at least sometimes, to make a commitment when you sit down to meditate that you're just not going to budge. There's certain schools of meditation that are rooted in just that is pretty much the teaching. You just sit, don't budge. Whatever happens, just be aware. And it's a really powerful teaching, even if that's not your primary meditation technique, to just do it every once in a while. Because most of us feel like we have an itch. Well, of course, you have to scratch it. I mean, what are you going to do? Of course you've got to scratch it. And it's not until you realize that you don't actually have to scratch it. I learned that, thankfully, when I was very, very young, long before I started meditating, but when I started taking karate at 8, because they line you up and you stand there, and if you so much as scratch your nose, it's 10 push-ups. And so you learn really quickly. Don't fix your hair, don't scratch your nose, don't adjust yourself. Like when he says, you just don't budge. And it's an incredible lesson, because the first time that you allow an itch to just itch and you don't scratch it, and you realize, oh my God, actually, eventually, it goes away on its own. It gets really annoying for a while before it does, but then eventually it goes away. And it teaches you about the rest of the world. Because whether it's an itch on your nose, or a really difficult person you've got to work with, or a really difficult situation you're in the midst of, that instinct within us of reaction, anger, suddenly you learn, I don't actually have to react. I actually can stay calm and balanced, regardless of what's going on. So it's a very, very important practice to bring in with your meditation and your mindfulness and your awareness, as you just start noticing. Practice it before you are in crisis situations. Learn it as a skill before you need it. And then you'll have it when you need it. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evenings. And I look so forward to being together tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your night, and so much love to you.